Hello everyone and welcome back once again. In today's video we will learn on Indus Valley Civilization or the Harappan Civilization. Under this topic we will try to cover up and understand the background knowledge of the Indus Valley Civilization and the race of this people of this Indus Valley Civilization. Also we will try to understand some of the important discoveries of this Indus Valley Civilization and the Indian states in which we find the remains of this Indus Valley Civilization. And lastly, we will try to understand the geographical extent of the Indus Valley civilization in India. So moving further, we know that the Indus Valley civilization is one among the four ancient civilizations of the world, which we currently known as the River Valley civilization in the world. We have done this in our last video. So this civilization is called an Indus Valley civilization because of the fact that it existed in the river valley of Indus, which is in the Indian subcontinent. We know that this Indus Valley civilization is also known by another name called the Harappan civilization, and the reason is because during the course for this Indus Valley civilization, the first city that was discovered in this Indus civilization was the city called Harappa, and that is why we call this civilization as the Harappan civilization as well. So if we see the geographical location of Harappa, it lies on the river bank of Ravi, as you can see on the screen, and this river Ravi is a tributary to the Indus River Valley. Now, in order to understand the existence of this Harappan civilization, let's go back to the last screen again. We know that the Indus Valley civilization is called so because it existed in the river valley of Indus, and it is also known as Harappan civilization because the first city to be discovered in this civilization was Harappa. Now let's have a look on the period in which this Indus Valley civilization existed. We know that it existed during the age of this Bronze Age, but in order to understand the contemporary age with regard to the Bronze Age, let's go back and understand and start from the Stone Age. This Stone Age is divided into Old Stone Age, Paleolithic, which is furthermore divided into a Lower Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic, and Upper Paleolithic again. After the Paleolithic Age, we have the Middle Stone Age or the Mesolithic Age, and followed by a New Stone Age and Neolithic Age. So these are the three, age that covers up or that falls under the domain of this Stone Age. Now, after the Stone Age or after the end of this Neolithic Age, people started making use of another implement, another tools which is made of copper. They started discovering the metal called copper, and instead of making stone as a tool alone, they also started making use of a copper as an implement or tools for their own defensive, also for their own living, so which will lead to an entry of a new age called a Copper Age, Chalcolithic Age, often referred to as a Chalcolithic Age as well. In the later phase of human existence, again, they will start mixing this copper with tin, which will lead to an entry of a new age called the Bronze Age, and followed by an Iron Age. So the civilization that we are talking today is Harappan civilization. This civilization took place during the time of this Bronze Age. And now this is very important thing we need to keep in mind, that the metal that was unknown to the Harappan people was an iron, because we know that the Iron Age existed only after the Bronze Age, and Indus Valley civilization flourished during this Bronze Age. Therefore, this Iron Age was an age that comes after the Indus Valley civilization. So in an examination, which was the metal that was not used or unknown to the Indus Valley civilization, that will be a metal called iron. But this is all about the this age, the period of age in which the Indus Valley civilization existed. Now we should also understand that this Indus Valley civilization is something that is related to a proto-historic period. So what is this proto-historic period now? We have come across studying the difference between prehistory and history. Prehistory is a period of human existence where there is no written records, where human beings have not yet invented the art of writing without human written record. While history is a period of human existence where we all have this written record and documents in our lives. But there is a period between prehistory and history, a period called proto-history. So this proto-history is a period of human existence where the art of written record, the art of writing was actually invented, but still yet to be deciphered, still yet to understand the meaning behind the script that was used by these people. So as we know that the script of this Indus Valley civilization is still yet to be deciphered. We never know what was the intention of the people of Indus Valley civilization in writing the script, because the script that was used by the Indus Valley civilization is not discovered, is not translated even today. Therefore, this Indus Valley civilization falls under a period called a proto-historic period. So any history in human civilization where the art of writing has not been yet deciphered or translated or yet known to us is called a proto-historic period. Moving further, this is all about the history of how, in which age does the Indus Valley civilization belong to. It belonged to the Bronze Age, and it is also called a proto-historic period. Have you ever thought about the origin of these people? What type of people, from which group this Indus Valley civilization came into being? From which race do this Indus Valley civilization belong to? For that, let's have a look here, and let's try to understand different opinions given by different scholars with regard to the race of the people of Indus Valley civilization. We should keep in mind that there has been a much controversy among the historians regarding the race to which the people of Indus Valley civilization belong. Different scholars have tried to speculate mainly on the basis of human skeletons and skulls found in the ruins about their races. While some scholars are of the opinion that they were an Aryan race, this opinion is strongly denied or vehemently denied by an archaeologist like Sir John Marshall, because if we compare and contrast the cultural or customs and culture of Aryans and the Indus Valley civilization, there is a lot of dissimilarities between the cultures and customs followed by Indus and the Aryans. Aryans means the Vedic age, alright? So that is why John Marshall does not accept the view that this Indus Valley civilization belonged to an Aryan race. There is also another historian called Gordon Gildy who says that the Indus Valley people are actually a Sumerian race. However, he also fails to give convincing and substantial proof in support of this view. Later on, we have an Indian archaeologist called R.D. Banerjee who says that the Indus Valley civilization is actually a Dravidian race. However, he also, you know, if we try to compare the funeral customs that was followed by the Dravidian race as well and that of the Indus Valley civilization, there is a lot of dissimilarities that we find in the funeral customs and culture followed by Indus Valley people and the Dravidian race, and therefore this view of R.D. Banerjee is also not unanimously accepted by historians. Therefore, looking at all these different opinions given by different scholars with regard to the race of Indus Valley civilization, Dr. Guha have made a conclusion that Indus Valley the race of the people who existed during this Indus Valley civilization was a mixed race, and therefore we should keep in mind that there is a great difficulty in ascertaining the race to which the people of Indus Valley civilization belong. Most probably, many races contributed to the evolution of this Indus Valley culture, and perhaps Aryans also formed, an important part of them. There is every reason to believe that the Indus Valley civilization culture was a synthesis of the Aryan and non-Aryan culture. However, we should keep in mind that its authorship cannot be ascribed to any particular race for now, because like I've mentioned earlier, the script of the Harappan civilization have not been deciphered, have not been translated by an archaeologist or a scientist, and therefore we cannot just make conclusion that its authorship of race cannot be ascribed to any particular race for now. And we can say that it is just a mixed race in which the Indus Valley people existed. Now that's all about the a short historical background about the race of the people of Indus Valley civilization. Let's have a look on the discovery of the Indus sites, the most important sites in which we find the discovery in the Indus Valley civilization. Like I've mentioned earlier, the Indus Valley civilization is called so because it flourished in the river Indus, and the first city that was discovered in this Indus Valley civilization was Harappa, which existed in the river Ravi, a tributary that goes and joins into the main strip of river Indus. So the story of discovery of Harappan civilization lies in the 19th century when the Britishers were trying to build a railway track from Lahore to Multan. As you can see on the screen, in the 19th century they discovered finally packed bricks millions of them, and which led to a notification to the Archaeological Survey of India, and which further extended to further excavations. And with this, the first Harappan city, Indus Valley civilization called the Harappan city, was discovered by Dayaram Shani in the year 1921. And we should keep in mind before we move further that this Harappan civilization is also regarded as the capital city of the Indus Valley civilization. This is an assumption given by many scholars because of the fact that if you see and compare and contrast the different types of archaeological sites that we see in this Indus Valley civilization, the Harappan city planning and that of Mohenjo-daro city planning is far more better than any other Indus Valley civilization sites, and therefore archaeologists and historians are of the view that perhaps or maybe the Harappan city might have been the capital city of this Indus Valley civilization along with the Mohenjo-daro. Alright, so Harappan city is one of the most important city in the Indus Valley civilization because of the fact that it was the first city discovered, and also that is why it is called regarded as the capital city of the Indus Valley civilization. Apart from Harappan sites, we have another most important sites called Mohenjo-daro, which will be on the southern part of Harappan civilization. And this, if you can see here on the screen, Harappan, this Mohenjo-daro existed on the river bank of the mainstream Indus Valley river valley. Mohenjo-daro was discovered by R.D. Banerjee in the year 1922, and we should keep in mind that this Mohenjo-daro literally it means Mount of Death, because during the excavations, different types and a lot of number of skeletons and skulls have been discovered during this excavation by the archaeologists, and therefore Mohenjo-daro literally it means a Mount of Death discovered by R.D. Banerjee in the year 1922. We have another most interesting and the most important locations of Indus Valley sites in India, that is very commonly known as Lothal, which is in Gujarat. It was discovered by S.R. Rao in the year 1954 and 1955. Before we move further, I want you to clarify this one thing, because many students get confused with the year and the discovery of this Lothal by S.R. Rao. The reason for giving this 20th year 1954 and 1955 is because you should understand that Lothal was first of all discovered in the year 1954. However, the excavation was carried out and started in the year 1955 under the leadership of S.R. Rao. Therefore, in some proof sources you will find in 1954, while in some you will find 1955. You should understand the difference between the reason why we make use of this 1954 and 55. The basic reason, like I've mentioned earlier, is because Lothal was discovered in 1954. Excavation was carried out by S.R. Rao in the year 1955. We also have another most interesting and important locations, historical sites and Indian sites here, that is the Tholavira, and also followed, which was discovered by J.B. Joshi. We will be looking forward in the next slide, even though. Then we have another important site called the Galibangan, which is in Rajasthan. Galibangan literally it means we will see that meaning of Galibangan in the next slide here. So these are the archaeological sites I've arranged in a very systematic and in a very ascending order. Discoveries made by these people and the year in which the archaeological sites are discovered. First of all, we have Harappa here, like I've mentioned earlier. This Harappa is on the Montgomery district of Punjab. This Punjab is not an Indian Punjab we are talking about, because in Pakistan as well we have another Punjab like that of India after the partition of Bengal in 1947. Therefore, Harappa is in the Montgomery district of Punjab, which is in Pakistan, modern political map of Pakistan. It was discovered by Dayaram Shani in the year 1921, as you can see on the screen. Then followed by Mohenjo-daro, like I've mentioned earlier. It is literally known as the Mount of Death because many skeletons and skulls were excavated during its excavations. It is also in the Larkana district of Punjab, which is in Pakistan again, discovered by R.D. Banerjee in the year 1922. We have Jonho-daro the next, and this is very important archaeological site you should keep in mind and never forget this, because in every Indus Valley civilization sites, whether it be Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, Kalibangan, or Thalivara, any other sites that we see in Harappan civilization, there is down planning of this Harappan site. We have two sections, that is western sections and the eastern sections, and in each and every historical site there is a citadel. Citadel means a kind of a fortified place. But this Jonho-daro is the only historical site or only Indus Valley sites where we will not find these citadels or a fortified place, and therefore this Jonho-daro becomes a very important from the examination point of view. Apart from any other historic Indus Valley sites, like I've mentioned earlier, Jonho-daro is the only site where we don't find a citadel built by the Indus Valley people, which is also now in Pakistan. Discovered by N.G. Majumdar in the year 1931. Then we have a Lothal, very common location, that is in Gujarat, discovered by S.R. Rao in 1954. And then Galibangan, like I've mentioned earlier, it means literally it means black bangles, and this is in the Rajasthan state of modern India, discovered by B.B. Lal and in the year 1961. And then we have Dholavira, which is also in Gujarat again, discovered by J.B. Joshi in the year 1967 and 68. This is a broad overview about the most important historical sites with regard to Indus Valley civilization. There are also many other historical sites with regard to Indus Valley civilization. Let's have a look now on the Indian states in which we find all these Indus Valley civilization sites. How many numbers of Indian states do we find the archaeological remains of this Harappan civilization? Here are altogether most important 7 states in which we find the archaeological remains of the Indus Valley civilization. First of all, let's start with the northern part of India, that is Jammu and Kashmir. In Jammu and Kashmir, we have discovered the archaeological remains of the Indus Valley civilization. We will look forward in the next slide again, followed by Punjab, and then Haryana, and then Rajasthan, and then the western Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, and northern Maharashtra. These are the most important Indian states in which we find the remains of the Indus Valley civilization. So keeping in mind that the Jammu and Kashmir lies on the northern part of the is the northernmost extent of the Indus Valley civilization. Western Uttar Pradesh is the easternmost extent of the Harappan civilization, and northern Maharashtra is the southernmost extent of Harappan civilization. Let's try to have let's try to understand in a very better version with regard to the geographical extent of this Indus Valley civilization, and I believe this will be the last topic for today. So if you look forward here in the northern part, we have in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, we have a place name called Manda, which will be the northernmost extent of this Indus Valley civilization. And from Manda, if you go down and to the northern part of Maharashtra with a distance of 1,400 kilometers, we reach the northern Maharashtra and find the name of a place called Daimabad. This will be the southernmost extent of the Indus Valley civilization. So now we are clear that from the northernmost extent of the Harappan civilization is Manda, which lies in Jammu and Kashmir, and the southernmost extent of the Indus Valley civilization is Daimabad, which is in northern Maharashtra, with a distance of 1,400 kilometers from north to south. Let's have a look on the west distance that covers from the west to east to west as well. To the eastern side, like I've mentioned earlier, we have the western Uttar Pradesh. There is a place called Alimgirbur, which is in Uttar Pradesh, and from Alamgirbur to the western side, we have a distance of 1,600 kilometers. We reach a place called Sutka Jindor, which is actually in the bordering area of Pakistan and Iran of today. So we are much clear that the easternmost extent of Harappan civilization is Alamgirbur, and which is in Uttar Pradesh, western Uttar Pradesh, and the western part of extent of the Indus Valley civilization is Sutka Jindor, which is in Iran, bordering with Pakistan, and the easternmost extent of Harappan civilization is Alamgirbur, which is in the western Uttar Pradesh. So if we look at this, the total geographical extent of this Harappan civilization from the north to the east to the south and to the west, the total geographical extent of this Indus Valley civilization comes up to 12,50,000 square kilometers. Now, before we move further, I want you to understand the facts and figures that I'm providing here today. 12,50,000 is facts and figures as per the textbook of this NBSC and NCERT. However, if you look at the present total geographical extent of this Indus Valley civilization, it will be far more than the 12,50,000 square kilometers. The reason is because the archaeologists and the scientists are still trying to excavate or trying to discover new places with regard to the Indus Valley civilization. And we can see that in every consecutive year, there is a discovery of new places, historical sites with regard to Indus Valley civilization. And therefore, the total geographical extent of the Harappan civilization will be far more than 12,50,000 square kilometers of at present today. But however, these facts and figures that I'm providing today, 12,50,000 square kilometers, is based from the NBSC and the NCERT book during the discovery of those time. Alright, you should keep this in mind. So with this, we will wind up our session for today. Before we wind up, let's try to have a recap on what we have studied in our class today. In our today's class, we have studied on the Indus Valley civilization, also called as the Harappan civilization. And under this topic, we have tried to understand the background knowledge of the Indus Valley civilization, followed by the race of these people of the Indus Valley civilization, and then the important discoveries of Indus Valley civilization, followed by the Indian states in which we see the Indus Valley sites, and also the geographical extent of this Indus Valley civilization. Because of this time constraint, I would not be able to complete the whole topic of the Indus Valley civilization in one particular video, but I believe and hope that I will bring another interesting topic with regard to the remaining topics of Indus Valley civilization in the next session. I hope and believe that you will continue to watch this video, this channel, and support this channel. And thank you so much for joining this session, and thank you so much. Have a nice day.